And we are live with another TROM-Cast. This time we are going to talk about volunteering because that's what we do here. And just a reminder, for every TROM-Cast, we post the Jitsi link and everyone can participate. I will post it now on TROM Live, tromsite.com/live. Anyone can participate, and yeah, these casts are between 1 and 2 hours, and we talk about the main subject, and then at the end we go through some news from creative news. And just a second, let me post on Tron. I will post on Tron live in a second. And you guys, if you want to talk about, like, I was curious to ask you guys, what do you volunteer for? Even if it doesn't have to be Tron necessarily, but do you do like volunteer work, and what kind of work do you do?
Guess like maybe like the open source like bug reporting you were telling me about. Like I guess that's all like volunteer trying to improve software or if you encounter an issue and you can work with people and that's usually there's no transaction there other than like trying to fix whatever the problem might be.
Yeah.
Do you report bugs?
What's that?
Do you report bugs?
Do I report bugs? I report the easy ones. That's like, hey, click this button, send us the thing, or do the anonymous usage reporting kind of stuff like that. I guess that stuff's all volunteer based kind of tidbits, and they help. They seem to like them.
Yeah, from those who make those pieces of software to those who report the bugs, usually I think almost like 98% or something is volunteer based. Because yeah, it will be like that. So yeah, I think that's a huge community there in the open source world we talked about before. But so yeah, even today, I think I reported like 3, 4 bugs because I'm testing all kinds of software for Java, and I report them. And almost every time, like, I think 8 out of 10 times they reply and they fix the problem, which is great
Yeah, it's good for
because
both of
they
you guys. And it's just like a little bit of synergy happening.
yeah, it's both because it fixes for me and that fixes for everybody.
Yeah.
So that's how things should work in general with open source. And I think the entire open source community, like we talked about before, is quite based on volunteers. Just because in this society you cannot trade much when the source is open, it's quite hard to make a buck. So usually people are volunteers, and maybe they may get some donations here and there, but they are volunteers and they struggle in times because you see these kinds of people who do free stuff and they are so useful for our society. Interestingly, in our society, they don't have a place because they cannot trade much. Because if they offer everything as like trade free or just open source, then they cannot get much in return. But it's a lovely community if you go to such communities in terms of how they are motivated by. Like they are very into what they are doing, and they are so thankful when I report bugs, for example. Even sometimes, I report because I report so much stuff. I report to the wrong software sometimes because I'm mixing up, and they're usually quite nice. They're like, "Oh, you should report it here." Oh my God, I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a wasting of time or something. And it makes you feel good because you contribute something to the source. And that's great. And but if we talked a lot about the open source work, and I was curious, what kind of volunteer, like, what domains in this world are quite based on volunteer? What do you guys know? What kinds of things, except the open source work?
Well, for example, Doctors Without Borders, I think they have many volunteers, and they help people all around the world basically, and also trade free kind of, because it doesn't matter how your political views are, how old you are, what kind of face you have, if you're black or white, it doesn't matter. They help just people, and that's the beauty of it. I think there are millions of volunteers in Doctors Without Borders. And hello.
Hi, Yuri.
Hi.
Hi.
Great to see you
Good
participating.
to have you, Yuri.
Thank you.
Summer.
Do you volunteer, Yuri? Do you volunteer your time in any kind of way, projects or just?
Yeah, I've made a video for a friend's project. It's similar to he's trying to develop a transition through kind of changing people's own environment. So I made a video for him like a month ago, and I've also helped a little bit with open source and free software, uh, reporting bugs, but also code in one particular project once.
Hmm.
But minor contributions, I guess.
And do you think it's because maybe you don't have that much time to get involved, or there are not many opportunities? What do you think?
Yeah, I would love to just do that, but I don't have time, or um, working a lot, and I'm working video production, so it's sometimes 15 hours a day, and so very little time.
Mhm. Yeah, because that's what happens with most people in this world. They don't have the time because they have to trade something for their existence, and then they are tired, and then they're like, "Ah, what?" And some people have this mentality because of this job-based society that why should I do this for free? Like I don't get anything. Why should I do that? Because they don't understand that you get in return. You get to help other people. You get for yourself. Maybe you help yourself. Like if I report bugs for software, I improve the software, or I help poor people, and then I reduce the maybe crimes if you help people lift them from poverty or something else, something like that. So yeah, I think people are both. They don't have time, first of all, and second, they might be their values might not allow them. I would say get too much involved because they are used to want something in return. But what about Denmark? Because you guys are from Denmark, are people because Denmark everybody says people live so well in Denmark and maybe they may have more time or leisure time or they are nice. What?
No, no, they don't. They're trading just as much time as anywhere else. And um, I think is also that maybe people don't feel like they're actually like contributing and feel like, oh, why should I do anything? It doesn't make a difference because they're living in their little like welfare bubble, you know, or maybe their life is nice and whatever, and they don't maybe think of like the whole of humanity as something that that we all influence each other, you know. So maybe they don't get that if some people get out of poverty, or if there are less homeless people in the street, my life gets better too, you know. So I think it's also like a lack of maybe understanding of like structural understanding and understanding of what influences them on a daily basis.
Yeah. And I would also say that many people within Germany or Denmark or any of those countries, whenever they see like a homeless person on the street or whatever, they always blame the government or put the responsibility on the government should do something about it. And why should I need to do anything? You know, they anyway should be entitled to something, but they're not getting entitled to it. So there is yeah, little empowerment in the individual to maybe want to contribute and so on. However, there are of course people who do volunteer here and all over the world. Like here, there's also like food sharing and all kind of things like that to help the homeless or those people who don't have enough food or they can't afford it. And yeah, all such things, and of course helping the elderly and those types of things are also uh, exist here, yeah, and other places.
You guys
But
were
if but sometimes this whole thing of like everyone is equal and the welfare state and all this stuff actually makes the blame on the individual worse because people are like, oh, you have it so well. You like most people think that homeless people choose to be homeless, for example, and yeah. So I guess you know, I think helping others and volunteering in general, I think a big blockage in that for many people is that you know they don't need help. Like they can just get out of their situation on their own. They chose it, you know, like that with many things, I think.
usually when you see big natural disasters, it's it relies so much on volunteers. I watched a documentary recently about those boys in Thailand that were trapped in a cave. It was like a very dangerous situation, and they had to get them out because the caves were flooded with water, and they were trapped inside. Like hundreds or thousands of volunteers came there to help. And this, if you look at any natural disasters, they rely on volunteers quite a lot. And what amazed me about, for example, that documentary when I saw it, is that their mentality was, okay, we need to get those kids out. We don't care about resources. We just need to get them out. We didn't put a price on it. And when you don't put a price on it, you come up with the best decisions, and you come up with the best people there who can help. And because you take away the what's the value? Like, if volunteers, for example, there to test, for example, some masks for the other kids in the they were trapped inside, so they needed kids that were volunteers to just test to simulate how they will get those kids out. Those kids volunteers. Like, imagine if they will make like a put like an offer there. Who wants to, like, we pay this amount of money on this. Even for those people, they understand. And in those situations, it's a very shitty way to like help other people. But then, if you have natural disasters, you understand that, okay, we can rely on volunteers for one, and second, we accept that volunteer job it's important. You have to like save or help here and there. Why don't we have the same mentality like everywhere? Like we should do that like a normal thing. Why shouldn't this be a normal thing to help other people and to provide for other people and help each other? Only natural disasters, should be that. That's weird.
Yeah, I guess in the mechanism of the system, every time you help someone, you're kind of losing money, right? Or losing time. So it kind of goes against your own interests. So you get a little poorer if you give money, so you're not, yeah. So, and also if you spend time, people say time is money. You're not making money for yourself. You're a little bit disadvantaged if you help people, right? Which is problematic. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yep.
because
Yeah.
time
Definitely.
are resources in the society. Those are your resources, your time, your attention, your skills, your energy. These are resources. And it's like imagine them physically. And if you give that resource for something that you don't get in return anything, you don't trade it, you just give it, then in society it's a loss.
Yeah.
It's good that you mentioned this natural disaster thing because I don't volunteer at anything. And in 2015, my city was hit with a very bad monsoon and it was flooded. It was very bad, mainly because none of the drains worked in the city. So they all got clogged and there was water everywhere. There were power outages and people couldn't get access to food and water. So one of my friends, he runs a catering service. He has a kitchen and he has people who work with him. And he said, "Why don't you come over and help us pack some food because we're planning to distribute food for people in the nearby area." And I was like, my house wasn't badly flooded. I live on the first floor. So I went over there with my friends, and then we spent 3 days, 4 days packing food. They kept cooking, and we kept packing. And at night time, we would pack food all day, and then at night time we'd go around in our cars or like bikes or whatever, and then give out the food. And the whole city did it. The government didn't do anything. In fact, any of the food or aid that came in from neighboring cities and our friends, the government actually stuck stickers on top of it with the local chief minister's photo saying that, yeah, the government was going to do it. It was quite funny for us because it's just average dudes. We met people that we wouldn't have met normally, and we all organized over WhatsApp and Facebook. So we sort of had this ad hoc thing going where we found out in which part of the city people didn't have food, and it was super fun, to spend your whole day. And I didn't cook food. All I could do was pack, and I got really good at packing food. That there is a way that these fast food, some local fast food restaurants, they give you some sauces or something in bags, and the way they tie the plastic bag is with this string. Like there is a technique to it. So I've watched these guys do it. So they don't spin the thread around the bag, they hold the thread and spin the bag around the thread. So it's faster, and then they pull it out. I picked that up because I was doing, I was slow, but I was doing 300 packets every 2 hours. And then there were 10, 15 of us, and randomly people would come in, they would need food, they would say, okay, I have 50 people waiting for me, I will pack the food, right? Me and my friends, we will pack it and you take it. Will you give the food? Yeah, completely trade free. We all pulled in, we all pitched in money, and we just did it. And it was super fun to be a part of that energy when it's not only food, clothing. It brought the whole city together. It's amazing, and it makes me think why we can't live like that every day.
Yeah. I think an interesting thing with it's a very, very interesting story. And like maybe the reasoning for many people is because a natural disaster is so like obvious. So it's like, oh, there's the threat and it could have happened to anybody and it's no one's fault or responsibility. So we have to help everybody. Whereas nowadays people don't see homeless people or something like that as like a threat that's just been caused upon them, and they have nothing, they couldn't do anything about it and stuff like that. They think it's their choice and there are other factors in play, and it's not that type of like immediate situation where they need help, you know. So it's I think people see it much more clearly if it's some big disaster, and then anyone could be affected in from their perspective.
It basically simplified things into what was needed at that moment, and people normally you wouldn't associate with or don't socialize with. I'm specifically talking about the ultra buff gym dudes. So those boys, they came in anywhere between 7 to 25, 30. They were all just standing around, and we were like, we need somebody to wade through chest deep water. There could be exposed power cables in there, but we need to pull some people out of houses. And these guys did it. They didn't wait around for security forces or these buff dudes. Or like, one of the buff dudes going inside, we're like, no, dude, be careful. He's like, no, I've got this. It was super fun. And it's a good energy basically, and you just fit into works that if you're part of that larger process where everybody is just focusing on helping somebody else, you automatically want to ask, what is it that you bring to the table that you can be really good at to be part of that process? With most trade-based things, you don't really do that, where cooperation is coerced. Everyone gave willingly, and it wouldn't have been possible without the internet, perhaps, because we couldn't have coordinated. But it's people by themselves in their nature. I think that their first primary nature is to try and help. Everyone feels that. It just takes one or two people to take that first step forward, and then everybody else follows. You will find it flowing in from the least expected places. It's amazing, and volunteer work is. I think everyone should do a little bit, And I generally don't I can't say I don't get the time. I just don't make the time because I'm super inefficient at work. But as much as I could, if I could pack those packets again, I think I'm pretty damn good at it. I can do
it. You were born like that.
Yeah.
You were born like that. Because the only thing that I would disagree here is that people might be like naturally inclined to help others. I still hold this view that I have, and I feel like it's based on whatever I know about the world and maybe research and so forth. That's
right, yeah.
I'm not born with pretty much anything. We learn to be cooperative, or we learn to be very jackass with each other, and because there are so many people in this world who are just not going to help anyone.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm not saying that all people are naturally giving. I'm just saying everyone feels that tendency to some extent. And then when the environment gives you that precondition to say that, yeah, this is the behavior that everyone should encourage, it comes out. It really does. If anything, it's a proof of that. When the precondition is like, behaviors will manifest. So I guess, yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And when there's a common threat like a hurricane or some type of natural disaster, then you're kind of fighting the same enemy. So you're on the same boat and so on. So I think that also goes to show that if you have the same enemy and it is like a common thing that you're all fighting for or fighting against, then it's much easier to volunteer and to put yourself in action.
Like for example, Aaron, you translate a lot of materials into German. So what? Why? Like why don't you have like a normal job and why? Because you don't get anything, not even money. You don't give you financial support for that. You might say that I get financial support, but you don't get anything. That's the story for everybody here. But I'm saying let's take Aaron for example. Why? What do you get out of this? Do you get anything? What's the point?
Well, I mean, I think we all grew up, and if a woman falls down, we would go to her and help her to like get up and ask if everything is okay and stuff. And I was always like that. I was always the guy who was friendly. I was helping everybody. It doesn't matter. I never wanted anything in return. Like I don't want money or anything. It's just helping for people is I like doing it, and I don't do it for money or for anything. It's just because if I think about if I need help, I would be so glad if somebody helped me. So I just give it to others. So and maybe it replicates and they helps other people. So it's just yeah, that's how I am. And
But
yeah, for Trom, it was like I was always looking for something like Trom. Because I told you, I was always questioning the kind of system. I never fit into that system, in the trade system. Felt there's something weird. We cannot continue like we do now. We cannot continue making business as usual. So yeah, I questioned that, and I through my travels I got open-minded for more ideas, and that's why I kind of got into Trom because yeah, a guy told me about this project. I was actually also doing some woofing. Okay, it's not volunteering completely because you get accommodation and food for free, but you help for 4 hours per day. So it's kind of it is a trade, of course, but it's not with money, but with resources like accommodation and food. And I like that because we are not that close to the trade bubble. It's not like we are workers and they are the owners and we get exploited. No, we just help each other. We grow some vegetables or harvest some vegetables. That's the kind of things what you do on a farm. And yeah, then they showed me some places. We always cooked together and talked about the culture. So yeah, and within this journey, when I found out Trom, I just wanted to help because these ideas are just great, and that's how I really see myself in that, and I
The,
think it can help so much people. Yeah.
and I think what this tells a lot about our society. The fact that many people might ask this, like, why would you do something as a volunteer? It says a lot about our society because maybe we should ask the other way around. Like, why do you go to trade for your work and for just to buy a car or just to have like some nice dinner or to have like this should be normal. That's what I'm saying. Of course, because you do many things. Even normal people who have jobs and they are not volunteers and so forth, they do lots of stuff that are not for money. They may care about their kids. They may care about their parents. They may engage into like some games or do some stuff for leisure or help their family here and there. It's not like everything is for them. Everything has a price tag. It has a grade. Like you help your grandparents, but you ask them for like maybe it's $50 an hour. That would be ridiculous. Last and I think the same attitude should people should have the leisure and the opportunities to have the same attitude inside our society to extend it more and more, more and more. That's what we should do, and not even call this as a volunteer. Should call this as a normal thing, and the other behavior to be like the trade behavior, and this is the normal behavior because you can say that I'm volunteering for the past I did something for money. Like I made a few websites because I was pushed to make some websites. But like starting in like 2006 or 7, I made a blog. I was writing there, and I was making all kinds of like I was curating some news and some photos and some videos, some documentaries. Then I started with Chrome, and then lots of projects now. Every time I did that, I didn't consider like, oh, I'm doing something special. I mean, I'm doing just what I'm doing. What the fuck? What are you talking about? If I make a video, I'm I just put it there and for other people to see. Or if I make like from Java, I customize the Linux operating system. I want people to use it. It would be so weird for me. I got used to this so much. It would be so weird for me to just make when someone contacts me to make a website for money. I am like I cannot focus because I feel so pushed. Like should I like force myself to become creative? How should I do it? It's so abnormal for me, and
Mm.
that's how it should be for all people. Just you do what you're focused, what you will like doing. Not it's such a weird concept, and we talked about this in previous TROM-Cast. It's such a weird concept to do this for that, whatever this is, like make a video, make a website, make something for this, like to get this, because it's always the connection between the two. It's always will push you to want this even more and take shortcuts and do it any way possible that you will take the shortcut to get the reward. That's the weird part in our society that we have to recognize, not volunteering, I think.
I think with volunteer work, how do you know what volunteer work is right for you? I think one common thread that is there between you, Theo, or Aaron, or anyone else, or even Seb, when the doing of the thing itself is the reward, that's when you know that it's worthwhile volunteering for.
Mm.
Because the reward doesn't have to come for you for after doing something if the reward itself is the doing. That's something everyone just needs to figure that out. And even after you figure it out, like you're saying, Theo, people should have the liberty in society. It's like a fundamental freedom for them to pursue it, to do something that is worth just doing. It is just worth to do.
Mm.
What would you say to people who say that we kind of need this kind of forced society to force people to do stuff because we cannot rely on volunteers? That's the main argument that I'm hearing. We cannot rely on volunteers. I understand it's a nice idea. It's like okay, paradise kind of idea. Oh, everybody should focus whatever they want, but it's not going to work because today we need the doctors and we need physicists and we need people to push people to become some like specialty this, specialty that, expert here, expert there, pick up the garbage, blah blah blah, all this. What would you say to people who are saying that volunteering is not reliable?
Well, I would first ask them if they've ever, if when they were children, have they ever played with other kids? When you play a game with other kids when you were younger, the only way the game would work is if everyone sort of played the game, right? It's the same thing with the trade. So there are two ways to do it. You can force people to. That's how the trade system does it. If you do not trade, you will go hungry. You will become homeless. That's one way to get people to work. The other way is when people voluntarily give, change the precondition. If everyone started doing the things that they found value in just doing, then you would not have to say that you cannot rely on volunteers. Because naturally, when these teams start cooperating, you will find effective teams, I would say. People who are really effective working together will naturally tend to work together more. And that sort of builds, I'm sure of it, but I think that's how it would work. Of course, you can't rely on human beings. That's why we make machines, you know. Uh, we're not meant to forcefully repeat and do the same thing if we don't like it. Machines can do it for us. So free humans of base labor, free humans of anything that requires cooperation. And then you will see this kind of NAC cooperation happening because you're changing the preconditions. What do you guys think?
Yeah, completely. And anyone who would say something like, "Oh, people who we could never have a world that's based on volunteers, or volunteers are not effective in what they do," they would be dismissing everyone's work here, and they would be dismissing all the work of all the Doctors Without Borders, all the volunteers around the world, all the Wikipedia people, all the open source community, and everyone, even themselves. They would be dismissing themselves for helping their mother, helping their doing things that the most people, the most important things that they do are trade free. It's like helping their family and taking care of their sick mother or parents or whatever the fuck it is they do. So I think it's just about extending that mentality step by step into society. Yeah.
Yeah, and also we've had societies in the past where they were collaborative, like the hunter gatherers folks. but it's small, so maybe the argument could be okay, but large scale, then it has to be, it's, competitive. Okay, but we've only had a large scale society that is competitive. We're kind of getting
Yep.
into the scale is becoming really huge right now. Even 100 years ago, it was so much smaller in many ways. So, okay, we have no examples of a collaborative society at this scale. So you can't say that it doesn't work. We can't, totally affirm that it does, but we have signs, we have statistics. The more people you get together with expertise and they have the drive, they start doing things, and they get interested also because they like the stuff. They want to help see the doctors, beyond borders. So, yeah, we have signs, but I would like to see an evidence that we can't do it because I haven't seen.
But also we have evidence that it is possible. For example, Wikipedia is the most well-known educational platform online. For example, it's based entirely on volunteering. We have Linux. It's yes, 80% of the Linux developers work for companies, but they rely a lot on volunteers for bug reporting and code and contribution and so forth. It's top 500 supercomputers in the world run Linux. Pretty much every natural disaster relies on volunteers. Again, the open source world relies on volunteers. Science itself, I mentioned this before, like, it's not like Einstein worked for a company that wanted to investigate this gravity, this force of gravity, and then he came up with the relativity theory, in that environment, or Galileo, or other people. It's true today. You have to have laboratories, you have to have people working in all kinds of fields to be more organized because you have such a big society. That's true. But it's also a proof in the past, like there are people who can, a group of people who don't work for getting something in return, yet they come up with the greatest discoveries of all time. Like the greatest, even recently, the Higgs boson, the guy who discovered the Higgs boson is, as far as I understand, it's a field that gives mass to every particle. The guy was like, didn't even want an award or anything. He was like, I wrote in the book about cooperation, I wrote about that. He just wanted to discover that. He was purely for that. It's not like the working environment pushed him. It's not like, his boss came and said, you know what, I will raise your salary 50%. Discover his Higgs boson. It doesn't work like that. Never works like that. You may work for like jobs that need slaves, but those jobs can already be replaced with automation. For those, it may work. Maybe if you pay them a bit more, they will push themselves a bit more. Be a bit more productive. But those are the jobs that we can already replace.
Yeah, this is what I consider to be signs. Good signs. I guess we could say evidence. Yeah, but they're not necessarily indicative of an entire system working purely based on cooperation, I would say, but good signs. I really would like to see when, the question is, can we have a society completely based on volunteers? We have no examples. So people that say we can't, there's no basis for that. We do have the examples that you gave, but I would be a little cautious and say that, well, it's not the entire society. It's just one portion of one thing there. But yeah, to me, it seems like it's totally possible. Yeah.
But it can also be argued that trade was never all of society. The market was never all of society. We've gone from being market economies to becoming market societies. So something that was
They're on to him. They're on to
momentum.
Oh.
Yeah.
But I still think that such examples are, of course, we don't have an example that the society can work, a big society worked on volunteers because we don't have it. That's why we talk about such things, of course. They cannot prove either that it won't work because, again, they don't have an example. But I think you can arrive at some conclusions based on examples. And you say, I think it's possible because of such examples, because it's examples in education, it's example in like with natural disasters, there are examples in pretty much every domain, as far as I know. last time I looked, there are around 140 million volunteers, full-time volunteers around the world, which is a massive amount of people. It's like the triple the population of Spain or something like that. It's a huge amount of people. And these are like, I think, full-time volunteers. So we don't have to dismiss that. Even Doctors Without Border, I mean, if that would be a country of 10 million people, because there are many countries with 10 million people or less, you will say, look, you have an example of a healthcare system that works based only on volunteers. The fact that it's spread around the world doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter. Like the same you can say with Wikipedia. You can say you can have an educational platform or Khan Academy that has millions, maybe billions of students. So the fact that it's not like coalesced everything into one kind of thing, one country to have everything based on volunteers, I think is not as important to prove that it's possible. I mean, like it's probable that we can have such kind of big projects because we don't have to go like full volunteer to imagine like a society that everything is volunteer based, but to imagine that we can do in pockets more and more and more and more and more and more. In this way, we provide for free goods and services for people. Okay.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
nice. Yeah, you said something, so I just want to just give you the opportunity.
He's back.
Ivan, you hear us?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if rain affects the internet, but I'm happy to have rain.
But what did you say? You were saying something?
I don't know where I got cut off, so
Ah.
I
No
think
worries. You will come with
the
ideas.
beginning, yeah.
and I don't even remember what I was talking about because it was.
Yeah, but I totally agree. I think it's possible. I think it's much better actually without trade. But I get key in terms of taking a scientific approach like that. Just to be careful, to the person that says that, oh, it can't work. And I go, okay, we don't have an example, but you don't have either. So
Yep.
Well,
We
I would
could never
argue
know
that
all the
it
until
science
exactly.
doesn't
points.
work with trade. So there are many
Yeah,
arguments for
exactly.
that. So yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I remembered what I was going to say. I
Mhm.
remember.
All right.
No, I guess like you're saying, if there is no example, you're right. We don't know how to make this. We don't have a precedent. You can say we don't know. We know that small concepts that used to be applied to a small portion of society can become the central organizing principle, which is trade. So if trade can do it, the opposite, something better than trade should also theoretically be possible. Now we just have to figure it out. It's basically like saying you won't know till you've tried, right? And don't we owe it to the people who come after us to, to be free of the trade system if we can come up with something better?
But in the same way that when you test a cancer treatment, you don't use all of the population. You use part of the population. From that, you extract a conclusion and say it works, I think, in 80%, 90% of the people. The same way you can say about volunteers, because in the end, it's about motivation. And you can prove that there are millions, hundreds of millions of people who get motivated without having to trade anything from many multiple domains, from education to medicine to whatever physical work. Okay, so then you can extrapolate from that and say that, okay, it's a problem of motivation. We don't see it widespread because people are forced to trade their energy and time and so forth. However, based on that, if this will be like a clinical trial, based on that, I think we have the proof that humans could be motivated just by doing things as a volunteer and as volunteers. And that's basically it. It's a problem of motivation in the end because it's not like people are already doing all kinds of jobs and they do like they are doctors and physicists and so forth. However, they have to get paid, else most people they cannot make it in this world. So that's my approach here. Use those examples like a clinical trial and be like, okay, it's almost like a randomized trial, and you see millions, hundreds of millions of people in many domains, and you say,
Yep.
based on that, I think people, human beings, can be motivated without pushing them to trade.
Yeah, I think a really great example is just to look at kids, you know, when they are so curious and motivated to do all kind of different things, and then you have the first like major trade that they have to do, which is school, and then they are pushed into the school environment, which is mainly a forced environment. So most kids don't necessarily like to sit in a chair for 8 hours and learn about all kind of different subjects in like an not a entertaining and interesting way, you know. But besides that, when they're done with school, they want to play, they want to learn about all kind of different things. They're so curious about a bunch of different topics. So you have those two environments, like the playful one and the self-motivating one, or whatever you want to call it, and then the forced one. And that of course extends then throughout life.
I think it's a
Yeah.
very good point, Seb. It's a very good point. Kids go to school wanting to learn but not wanting to be taught.
Yeah, exactly, that's a good way to put it. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. Yeah.
I
And
also want.
we
Oh,
grow. I
go
mean,
ahead. Go
the
ahead.
example. Oh, sorry.
No worries. Go ahead.
Okay, so the example of the kid I think is great because we I've seen kids that growing up and they were really curious about the environment. They wanted to learn and they liked, oh, let's go to the beach and see animals and things like that. They were very interested in many things, and they grow up. And I know this is an anecdote, but I've seen this in many examples. But they grow up and they start. They want to be suddenly. They want to make money. They want to be rich. They want to be famous. So this is all learned. You see that this is learned. They learn through experiences. That's something interesting to be doing, for them, from their perspective, from what they've learned. So we learn to be traders. We don't necessarily, it seems, it doesn't say. So at first we just like to do things. We like to experiment. We like to, yeah. So I would say we sometimes we talk about this and we go backwards. We think backwards. We go from, okay, no, we gotta have trade because we have trade. But okay, well, let's go back. How do we got to trade first? That's, I guess, more interesting to be
Yeah,
see the root
exactly.
cause.
Exactly. I want to add that the trade system incentivizes people to not help as much as if there would be no trade system, because it's more worth, like if you help somebody, you don't get anything, but if you open a bank and put people in debt, you earn millions of dollars, and you can do whatever you want basically.
It's
So imagine if we give people time and opportunities, like if we provide all the necessary things for people, like food, shelter, clothes, and medical insurance or medical healthcare and stuff, to then like let people give time, give possibilities, opportunities to help other people, to volunteer. I think, we would see an explosion of these projects, like open source projects of Wikipedia or Doctors Without Borders. If people are not forced anymore to work, to trade their time, energy, and skills, and so forth, what would they do? Would they sit the whole time in front of the TV watching something? I think after a while it gets boring, and then you just think about it, and you may, come up with something you like to do, and
I
if you
think
do it for
I,
nothing for return.
I told you about this documentary Natives, that they were taking like people from like some primitive tribes, they say, and put them in New York or something and see how they react to that kind of environment. And I think I told you about one guy was seeing another human being in Manchester on the streets, and there he was like, "We don't have places for this human being because you have these big buildings. Why?" And the presenter there explained that no, he's homeless because he cannot afford. And he said that look, in our village, when someone doesn't have a house, we go and build the house
Yeah.
for that human being. It's not. It's a normal thing. It's like, what should we do? The guy doesn't have a house. The house. It's so normal. It's so normal. But for us, it's not.
Yeah.
It's backwards. That's why it's learned, of course.
And it's really about what do we want, right? Because people don't realize that the reason why we have so many movies is because of the money making machine. It's not, and advertising and games, a lot of games. are made in a very with very specific knowledge on how to hook the user for the longest.
Right.
And so all of this media, getting you, people think, oh, people are just gonna sit down and do nothing, watching videos all day long or playing video games. Well, most of that would go away first of all, because that's just in the mentality of the market system. That's byproducts of the market, and also, yeah, it's if you take all that away.
That's why I'm saying that this thing with trade and trade free, that by the way, we are going to release the tradefree.org website very, very soon, maybe in a few days time. It's also about volunteers, because if you say I'm doing something that's trade free, that's a more clean way to say that you're a volunteer. You just do something and you don't want anything in return. I just did that. You can take it and I don't need anything from you. And that's another way to say volunteers, to say charity, and so forth. That's, I think it's a neat idea to just push it like that. And we're going to make this trade-free website, and people can link to it and be like, okay, I have a project. This project is trade-free. You can click that, and you can go to this tradefree.org website and understand what trade-free means. And I think that's a beautiful idea for we will contact volunteers and so forth. Maybe they will agree with this notion, because it's the same that they are doing, only that is worded a bit differently, just to emphasize more about our trade-based society. Because I think that there are many open source projects and so forth, projects, they care about the idea of like, no, I need to make this open source and I don't want to collect people's data, I don't want to do this. Why don't you call it trade free? Like, this is just, you don't want any trades. You don't have to mention so many things that you are not going to do with your software. So that's what we're going to push this. But I also want to like bring Roma, because I didn't hear you much. So what Roma? Why do you contact me and say you contacted me and said, I want to help Trom. I want to, like, I have some skills. Give me something to do. Like, why don't you just mind your own business, Roma, and make some money?
Yeah, it's a good question too, actually. Well, I hope you can hear me, guys, because I'm still struggling with my shitty internet today. So anyway, well, first of all, I found it's like so much more attractive to do things for Trom than actually do anything that I did basically all my life till that day. Well, because that it's many things that I'm interested in, and I'm just like to help people. Basically, I can say that I'm very agree with Aaron with that statement, because that's the same thing that I'm living on almost all my life, when I just start thinking about the things around and so on. So just why I can do anything that I want to do, actually. Somewhere, some people there or here try to put me in the flow of this society, like you need to find a cool job, trying to do a bug and bought you a car, or go to the vacation to some beach or whatever, anything, like get a great education or something like that. So it's basically the tool we have to live in the society. This is how we find a way to move forward, to going on and on, and that's it. So what I want to say, and was a very interesting conversation about the trade, non-trade, and so on. That's if we speaking of trade, it's just a tool, actually. So as well as any volunteering is also a tool to solve some problems, for example. So just the trade is the tool that we have almost thousands of years already, and I believe a lot of people just scared to try another tool, for example, volunteering, or do trade-free stuff and do whatever you want and just don't ask anything for return. Like if you have a nail in your wall and you want to pull out it from wall and you don't know how to do that, you just take a box of tools you have and try maybe a hammer to do that. Then you just take another tool and try again, and in the result you are getting this nail from the wall with some tool. And one tool or three tools can do it also, but one of these tools are better than others, for example.
Yeah, I like how you put it.
Yeah.
It is a tool.
Yeah.
We want to achieve something today is with trades, but we can do it with volunteers as well. Yeah, it's a nice visual way to put it.
Yeah, it's just a tool. What am I thinking when I think about volunteering in nowadays, today's, it's in modern volunteering? It's great to see how technology helps to do this stuff. Because, for example, this TROM-Cast is a good example of what we have today. We are people from all around the world just get together to try to do something, to create something that can be useful for us, for anybody actually, and. We just don't have, like someone said earlier, we do not have like enough view of what we have today and how we can use it to apply to the other modern problems and so on. Only what we have is that a bunch of quotes from all the people that live in thousands of years, so that we have a democracy or like market or something like that, and that's basically all we're trying to learn or teach our children and so on. So I believe, and I want to believe, and I have a great hope for that we are like in the middle of something going on about the things should break up. So there's some new stuff should go on, and people should realize that all the modern stuff we have, like internet and so on, can help to get to the result, to the solution very, very the more in quick way than we usually do with such trade or something like that stuff.
To replace
So, what?
To replace the tool of trade.
Yeah. So like whatever, just took box of tools and take whatever you want to and try to do with it better what you want, something like that.
I really like your tool analogy. It's like way everyone applies trade to everything. It's like trying to solve every problem with a spanner. Now, you can keep tweaking the spanner, try and fit every problem, but some problems require screwdrivers. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
It's the right tool for the right job. And tools keep getting better.
Yeah, and you have a lot of people to create such tools. Like another project nearby can create another tool, and you can try to use it. Like mostly we can find a way to communicate with each other. We can try Riot or can try RetroShare or whatever we like, and like choose whatever we want. And basically, it's cool to see how the open source can afflict this flow, because they have such concepts like forks and so on. Maybe you heard about that. And you can just basically take the project if you don't like something, or you think you have a great idea how to improve this piece of software, you can just take a fork and create your own, basically. And probably it can be better. Maybe it's also similar how TROM was created, actually. So to work on the TVP with such news and so on, and basically he cannot do whatever he wanted to do, and just they take a fork and create another TROM project with a bunch of enhancements and create people and so on.
It's how life evolves, doesn't it? That's how mutations happen.
Absolutely, it's a pure natural way to solve the things around.
What I was thinking now is that think about religions. Religions, pretty much, as far as I know, they are trying to teach this that you have to be good for other people. I don't think they say you have to trade as much as possible and as better as possible and to ask for the right price. I don't think they will do that. I think most religions try to tell you that oh you have to be good towards your neighbor and so forth. So we're trying to say here something that those people that many people believe in those kinds of religions. Yet it's a double-edged sword here because on one side is like or it's not double-edged sword, but it's like it's not enough to have words, nice words, and tell people you should not trade, you should be good towards your neighbor, and you should do this, because the environment doesn't support that kind of attitude. So I think for me, what I learned from here is that you need to create an environment that allows volunteers instead of pushing people to become
To
volunteers.
volunteer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
and if anyone says that we are saying something crazy, I mean, aren't you a Christian? Because if you read the Bible, probably you will hear that you have to be good towards your neighbor and so forth. That we don't try to do to say anything more than that, but just to put it in a non-religious context. You know, we have to provide things for free because scientifically, if you do things for free, it's you create an environment that is less prone to charlatan behavior from people. Don't create this kind of like race and so forth if you're a volunteer. So to me, it's like everybody who's a volunteer is like it's what religion was trying to say without the fake, without the bullshit of the invisible man in the sky it was watching you. It's the same thing.
It's like I just thought instead of saying people, telling people to hammer nails, you give them the tools, right? Here's a
Yep.
hammer.
Yeah.
And you
Here's
do
the
it.
hammer.
If you don't have the tool,
Yeah,
yeah.
teach me how to fish. We are going back to the Bible.
Let me
You
read
know,
the Bible how to get nail out the wall. Good luck with that.
Yeah, but the thing is in the Bible they also say, give the world all the best and be a volunteer or whatever, and then everyone will love you, and then like you will get something in return in that sense. But the thing is as well as like to do something because you like doing it to help other people, but whatever happens, and not to try to expect anything in return as well.
Like a place there, you know, if you are good here,
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
don't expect.
Damn, I just realized that Bible is trade based.
Yeah, pretty much.
Quite brave. Yeah, actually.
Yeah. So
Little
no
bit.
place in our set of sites for Bible. No
Reward
way.
and punishment.
There will always be space. I mean, if faith helps people, if those words written in some book help somebody get by on their day, see, as long as it doesn't fuck my day up, I'm okay with, like get your jollies off on any book you want. I mean, I don't know because I didn't grow up in your circumstance. I didn't develop that response that helps me carry on or keep my sanity. So I mean, it's quite commonsensical. Like believe what you want to believe, but don't let that belief stop you or stop other people. It's a different thing. But when it comes to volunteers, imagine this: you have a scenario where you have to the origin of most problems. The Trom superhero, he talked to a kid, right? Imagine if you have to simplify it to new kids, the newborn kids, and you have to tell them how the system works. If you have to be radically honest about the trade system, I think it would go something like, okay, you can do whatever the hell you want to do, but it's got to make you money, right? It's only then will it be considered something useful. If not, you're going to have a bad time because that's the nature of our reality. Imagine if you didn't have to explain your society like that. If you went up to a child and then you told them, take your time, figure out what it is that you would like to do because everyone's pretty much doing that. Pick one thing you can become good at that you can share with someone else. You don't have to do it, but you will have fun doing it. Imagine what kind of society would come from people who grew up like that. You know,
Yes,
We
because we're
don't.
trying to imagine how a society or volunteers would work like with people from today's society. But imagine if people will grow in that kind of mostly volunteer-based society. It would be completely different. We wouldn't even have the discussion about motivation. Of course,
Yep.
there are so many things to do. I think we discussed in some other Chromecast, like people think that there are many things to do. Like if we automate, for example, everything, we are like, oh my god, I don't know what to do anymore. Are you fucking crazy? Have you ever like look at the night sky? No, look inside. Look everywhere. It's a fucking. We have so many problems. We have so many mysteries. I mean, people don't know when they talk about such things. They just don't know. That's the problem. So I think they didn't, because they don't have the education. They are not exposed to this kind of information. They cannot imagine it. Like I used to give this, like I make this analogy of imagine a hard drive on a computer, and now you take a human being, a normal human being, because everything that we watch and see and so forth is quite digital. Okay, take this human being for 10 years. Everything that this human being watches and sees and reads, copy them on the hard drive. Okay, put them on the hard drive, and now make an artificial intelligence that will be based on that data. Okay, and that artificial intelligence will extract information based on that data alone. And you ask that artificial intelligence, how do you think a world with volunteers will be like? Well, they will search from like Big Brother shows and in that kind of materials, with pictures with cats and so forth. Of course, we cannot come up with a intelligent answer or with a I would say more sane answer, because people don't have that in their brains. That's why they cannot understand a world of volunteers. People work like actually people who create artificial intelligence are trying to do is to replicate humans, because humans, how do we learn? We learn by the exposure. That's why we know that this is a cat and this is a dog, because we see cats and dogs in many kinds of instances. Okay, from this side, from that side, in videos, from above, from many colors, many sizes, shapes. Okay, so this is if people are not exposed to like volunteer projects, for example, because all they know is like companies. Oh, I know about Apple, I know about Microsoft, I know about Google. Everybody works. That's what they know. That's why they cannot imagine how a world based on volunteers will look like. So you have to provide examples for them, more and more examples, and then they will be more maybe relaxed. I realize that they are like, okay, so this Linux thing, okay, so citizen scientists, maybe that's interesting, okay? So you have to push them, put on their hard drive the proper information when you ask them the question. Otherwise, they cannot formulate something in their head that they have no imagination in that sense. That applies for everyone and everything.
That's the limit of the human intellect. That's the limit of cognition. You cannot imagine a color you've never seen. It's impossible. Don't even try. So there's somebody who would like to talk, but their mic is off and their video is off. It says Chiri Rocks. Turn on mic in your video. If you can hear me.
For me, even when I see you guys here, I'm thinking like all of you guys are volunteers and they help Trump project, and some people may help other projects as well. For me, that is the proof. I don't even need more. Of course, I can give a ton more examples with millions of people. But for me, it's like even if I would be the only example, I would say, okay, I think humanly it's possible, because I'm not motivated by trades. I'm just motivated by just doing the shit that I'm doing. For me, it would be quite enough, because it means like, okay, we can kind of prove that human behavior
We are
like
living
that.
in the system that
We may not know how to arrive there for most people, but possible.
I think also the word hobbies is like an important word for people to imagine as well. Like most people have hobbies, also if they work and stuff like that. It's like, oh, so, you wouldn't like to live a life where you could really just dig into your hobbies and maybe, be excited about that and so forth. That would also be like a way to maybe communicate the message.
Good point.
Yeah, that's their bridge.
Yeah.
My bridge, you use their bridge.
Exactly.
But even being with
It's all
you.
about taking.
No, you go ahead.
It's okay. Very briefly, it's really about taking the unnecessary problems out of the equation, right? We have so many problems to solve, diseases and things. You just take the unnecessary things, take the trade system out of the equation, make a system that's automated, and it's really hard for people to see that. It's not having no problems. It's having taking out
new problems,
the bullshit.
having new problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then isn't that worth working on? Because even when we have this group on Riot, and I see Ziad, I see Roma, I see Theo, who's constantly working, and I think, I must also develop something useful for this project because, I also want to pitch in. And the closest that I can relate to it is like being younger when, I wanted to play with the other kids, and I was always shit at sports, so I would never get picked at anything. Uh, I only played basketball for like 2 years in school, and that's only because that was the largest ball you could play with. So,
We should also like not like, don't use volunteers. Don't make a society of volunteers that will make the ones who don't volunteer feel bad. Like if you don't
no, I
volunteer,
don't. It doesn't make me feel bad. It makes me feel like shit. If I had something I could contribute, it would be more fun. I mean, I don't feel bad at all. It's nice, but I'm telling you that being among people like this, it makes you think. Okay, how can I pitch in? Trade-based societies, they don't do that. Why do
But
you need to go to a job? Because you will not feed yourself if you don't have a
but
job.
at first place, our system is not teaching us about volunteering. In turn, it's pushing us towards materialistic aspects, not spiritual subjects or spiritual aspects.
I mean,
say problem solving maybe in terms of like problem solving and the advantages of because there are scientifically proven, I would say, advantages of being of having a society that is relying more on volunteers because that means it's a society that where people have more time to engage in whatever they want to engage and not have this. Why don't we call this system a slave system? Because that's what it is, and to move away from
because slaves didn't get paid, and now we get paid.
For sure.
It's just
Paid slaves.
comfort and
paid
so
slaves.
forth.
No, but speaking about materialism, I think it gets a very bad rap. Any engineering is still materialism, right? You still have to engineer things. Software, even though it's not really material, it relies on hardware, and you get what I'm saying. Not everyone can go off on a spiritual route. If you have that need to find spirituality, you can find it in almost anything, but that's really subjective. There's still material things that have to be get done, and there are many ways you can still contribute to a materialistic society without it being super shallow.
I think what I understand about materialistic is like the focus is too much on stuff and to acquire not
Right.
relationships and so on, but to stuff. You know, maybe that's what I understand.
That's a very shallow way of looking at materialism. I mean, look at if engineers didn't weren't breaking their heads trying to figure out the compressive strength of materials or the tensile strength of steel, we wouldn't have bridges, we wouldn't have bricks, and you have to have somebody playing around in the mud and trying to pull steel apart for people to figure this out, right?
For
Of
sure.
course,
I think it might be different definitions of materialism there. But I also wanted to add that that most people they only very few people in today's society can kind of balance doing something that they like to do and also getting paid. You know, like maybe some few scientists that work for NASA or certain fields. Maybe some people might be fortunate enough to kind of do what they want to do and also feel like they're contributing and they would do it even if we were living in a trade-free society.
I mean, my job is basically like that. I like my job a lot. It's very challenging. It's very difficult, and all. I've been working at it five and a half years now, and every day it's like I'm going to fail. They're going to kick me out today, but it keeps me, and I'm no way one of the most competent in my office. I see colleagues who are like they've got like two brains in one head or something, but it is. I'm one of the lucky few. I have the only complaint I would have is that.
Would you work that job if you had anything that you wanted and needed? Basically?
Oh, Oh no, man! I wouldn't work at all.
You wouldn't work at
Don't
all.
get me.
You're
I
going to
mean
create
that's
a society of
yeah.
lazy people.
No, the one of the primary struggles I have, and I've always sort of because I try to spend every free moment I get thinking. So it's kind of like what I do for fun. So I thought, why is it that I'm not having such a good time? Why is it that I struggle? It's because when you're in a trade system and you want to do something that you like, consistency is expected. Like you're saying, right, Theo, like it's super uncomfortable for you to work if someone pays you to design their website. I am not consistent. I cannot plan things. I cannot stay on track. I try my best, and it's I don't know. There are so many names for it. There is so much research on it. It's like ADHD or EFD, executive function disorder. But basically, I cannot plan and stay on target. Right? It's very hard for me to get something started. But if it's something I really like doing and I get lost in the doing, I won't move for 17 to 18 hours, and it doesn't drain me. It doesn't drain me. And I remember working for this trade free logo, and it took me quite a lot of time, but it was so much fun because it was so engaging. And I hadn't gotten to do something like that at my work for a long time. Now it's a different thing. Working a very tight deadline and it's super exciting, and people will get very upset if I don't finish work on time. That's not exactly motivation. It's like being chased by a bear if you want to go jogging. It's not motivation.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. A trade-based society expects you to, like, people say volunteers are not reliable. See, I have to be reliable. I have to force myself to do that. I can't fail. If I fail, things get fucked up and I'm easy to be replaced. And that's an unfair pressure for any human being to have.
Plus, like we
Forget
said
me.
before in other Chromecast, it's we don't need as many people to run a society like we do today, because pretty much jobs today are most of them are just driving trucks and writing papers. So
Yeah.
so yeah, you don't need, even if Iskiniva is going to be like, I'm so bored, I cannot work unless you pay me. You will be like, okay, you just stay there because we are going to take care of the society.
I've refused raises at work because I felt that I pay too much, which is like most of the time where I'm sitting and thinking or trying to work something out. I've refused raises. I've never worked at this job for the money. I've only done it because it challenges me. It forces me to plan, work on my weaknesses, and I feel that personally, I kind of need that right now. I could have been very easy and said, yeah, it doesn't interest me, so it doesn't work. But personally, that's why I keep my job. I mean, I have a roof over my head. I will never go hungry. Uh, I will never not have a home unless all the homes are destroyed or something. But it's a challenge for me. And if I could do it without the fear of failure or something like that, that would be ideal.
Cody, if you were to like not have to worry about your situation, like whatever you need and want, what would you volunteer your time for? And what would you
Volunteer.
volunteer?
So I guess it would be the most. I think in terms of efficiency. So like, what is the most valuable thing I can do with my time that's going to benefit maybe the biggest change or improvement on not just my life, but societies, if you would, my brothers and sisters and whatever. Um, and well, that's got me here in this TROM-Cast right now. So like, as far as anything I've encountered and that I have skills and a will to commit to a project. Trom has been, that thing for me that's like I said a while ago, while you were doing, Trom curated news and stuff. I was kind of doing my own, like, throwing together some news stories, throwing together science, doing this like little newsletter thing, and that was something like it took 10 hours of my day, and that was just something I wanted to do, and then it was like, if I spent an extra half an hour or an hour just typing it up and putting it in an email for my friends and stuff, maybe that helps them out too. So I started doing that stuff. Didn't really get traction or what I did, but I did that for like a year and a half or something. I eventually reached out to you, and I was like, I need like some feedback that what I'm putting in here is actually producing like some sort of result that I can see or measure or something. And then eventually that ends me up over here, and now I can see the fruits of my labor, if you would.
But it's such a great feeling when we do stuff and you just do stuff like that, and then you see that you help other people, like sometimes the emails that I receive, or the fact that people use, I don't know, TROM-Java, TROM created news, or they watch this TROM-Cast. It's such a it's such a real kind of thing. It's real, and it's important in on itself. You know, I don't need any. You cannot put a value on this. And usually, when you do volunteer work, it's a weird thing with this kind of putting a price tag on something, because you know what is the value of, let's say, from documentary or from the Trump project? What's the value? How can we sell it? You know, how can you measure such things? You know, because you do it as a volunteer, I do it as a volunteer, then it's whatever it's comes like a positive thing, that's the plus. It's not like I lose anything. I don't lose any investment. You know, that's another thing interesting. You know, you do a volunteer thing, you don't lose any investment, because if you enjoy whatever you're doing, then that's it. And I love that. I absolutely love that. I think it's the people don't understand, those who don't do such things, they don't understand the value here. They don't get to experience that. It's almost like not experiencing sex or something. You can talk about it, or whatever else, you can talk about it, but you have to experience it. You know, same here. Experience it, how it is to like to feel like you people there like friends, and the fact that you see value in such things. That's the most fantastic thing that you cannot replace with a fucking like $100 or a meal or something like that. Give you a beer. Thank you for that. You know, I don't need the beer. I don't need anything.
Yeah.
I'm just happy if you use Tom Jar. If you use Tom Jar, I'm super happy. I'm like, use it. That's what I made it. Just fucking use it.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah. So like, yeah, there's even like a person in chat, that was just saying like, they're happy that there's even people like discussing these like kind of important topics and stuff, and then that just seeing that, it's like, there's a positive bump for us for seeing that, like, we're actually doing something here, at least for like one person. But having that feedback response, like, okay, there's something here, and it keeps you on that path to keep, all right, let's make this bigger, let's make it better, let's do it every week.
You know that we have in society, we have the idea of a hero, or someone who's tough, is someone who's physically tough. I feel like volunteers are tough, because for this society, they are the tough ones. They are the ones who say, fuck it, you do all of this, you guys, I'm doing for free, I'm the toughest guy here, because I'm mentally tough, and maybe I'm physically tough to do those fucking things. I'm not looking for something in return. So I think that should be the definition of being tough, and being a bit of a hero, if you want to have such definitions.
Completely, because it's picking the tough road in terms of it's not reinforced at all by this in the society. You're doing something that's going completely against everything. And I wanted to add to something that you were saying as well, was Richard Feynman has like my favorite bit about that, when he was talking about how when he won the Nobel Prize, how he thought that was complete bullshit, and he just hated it, because he was like, what is that all about? I did it because I got a kick out of the discovery and seeing other people use now what I discovered, and so on. And that's the whole point of it. You can shove that thing up your ass. I don't need that little metal thing. But most people today, they do things just because of those shallow items. Or for example, I also ran a marathon last year or something like that, and it was terrible. Like, everybody who was running it was just like clapping and shit like that. And people's values are so distorted that everything is done for approval, or to get something in return, but not because you want to do it yourself. And I think that's the most privileged feeling you can have, kind of, to do something that you like doing for others, that's helping others because you like doing it, and not wanting anything in return.
Completely agree. Guys, if you want, maybe we should go to the news a bit. Maybe I cannot say that much of them.
Hey, just a little, maybe briefly, about... Do you heard, guys, about Perelman? He was just a Russian crazy guy who approved the Poincaré conjecture, and he won a Nobel Prize for that in math. And he just rejected the prize and stayed here in St. Petersburg and lived somewhere near in the nearby region with my actually district, and I even know a guy who actually seen them how he walk around and go to the shop or something like that. So just a real guy from like
He
whatever.
solved he solved a really tough math problem.
Yeah. It was one of the thousands big humanity problems in the science, I guess, and he solved that. I don't know, probably a couple of years ago, something like that, and he won the Nobel Prize and just rejected everything he had, and the prize and the money and all of that.
Even though
Just and I like how he said that. He said that like very similarly how Feynman um, told about that. That just it's not what I want. I just want to do my stuff, like do all my hobby all the day, and just don't give a shit about everything you want to prize me with, like awards and so on.
I think even the scientists who accept such awards, I don't. I think there is more like a social pressure to accept them, and
Yeah, of course. I'm not saying that
everyone
it's
goes there for Nobel Prize.
this is a real scientist or something like that. The only one scientist,
Probably.
just a lot of them just doing their stuff and they like it, and because they feel that they need to solve this. That's what actually excites me about the following tradefree.org uh,
Yep.
like idea is that this is ability to like touch the real real work on the new tool, which probably can help people to decide what shoes to grab that nail from the wall. And I believe that we need more and more of such tools, and probably projects which will go after they will be familiar with the trade free and something like that. Like just full up our toolboxes, and the people just start to realize what really happens and how naturally to solve the problems. That's why I'm Trom, and that's why I love everybody of you people, and I'm really glad to be here.
Same to see all of you people.
So, completely.
Now we are
Very
watching
excited.
new trend, and that is decentralization, which is powered by cryptocurrency and blockchain space. So, do you think that this is really going to change the slavery system?
This is
No.
not a topic, but I would like I argued in the last Trump book. I I don't know if I have to go into this, but cryptocurrency is just another form of trade, and blockchain. It's a good technology. It's a great technology, but depends how you use it. It's like a knife. It depends what you cut with the knife, and it's fruits or people. So, but we will do a TROM-Cast so that we don't mix things up now. We will do a TROM-Cast about currencies. So we will do about cryptocurrencies and blockchain. Okay. So then we're going to discuss about all of this.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Are we going to news now?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Let's do quickly thing and then-
So the first one was just the Trom curated news. We had a post.
The news are from here.
Oh, I see. What's going on? Okay, so stream ripping giant convert to MP3 settles with the music industry and shuts down.
See how they force little tools to just shut down just for like converting YouTube videos
into MP3. Yeah, which was it's weird because even in the article they state like there's legit ripping just an audio from video is not necessarily copyright infringement, but that they're doing like throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's some bad people doing it with infringing purposes, but now nobody can extract audio from a video file.
That's why I recommend to people Tromjaro. Because if you go on tromjaro.com/apps, you will see there you have all kinds of apps if you want to download something from YouTube, for example. Because there are also copyright free, all kinds of copyright free videos and so forth on YouTube, but I don't think they have a download button as far as I understand. So you can use we have so many tools like ClipGrab or YouTube Downloader. So yeah, don't rely on websites. Don't rely on apps.
Turtle, the weed killing robot.
We have a few robots there that you can showcase a little bit
Joe Jones
about
has been.
all kinds of robots that this one is the weed killing robot it's a little robot that will you put it on a field where you plant stuff and to kill weeds and it only identify weeds and then cut them so you automate that kind of job.
How does it know which weed to cut?
It's
Small.
software. It
I
depends.
think it cuts everything underneath 10 centimeters or 5 or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's about
Then
it.
you can plug something in so that it detects and knows that it should not tackle this one.
Okay, but don't you think even the concept of necessary and unnecessary plants is kind of like a trade thing when we look at all, who are we to decide which plants are necessary and
It
unnecessary?
depends for what. For this
Yeah.
plantation, maybe if it harms this kind of plantation and you want to grow this kind of crop and this plant is harming, then it's just a simple decision of just growing a healthy crop.
Yeah, I mean, I've spoken to enough vegans to realize that you cannot anthropomorphize plants because there is no sentience in them. So I guess yeah, the weed killer robot is nice. Otherwise, you'd be out there knocking all the weeds out, and that breaks your back. It's good, cute robot.
There are other kinds of robots there, like there was one robot that was teaching kids how to code. These kinds of robots are very, very interesting because usually coding, the same way with mathematics, it can be very boring and very draining in terms of like creativity because it's just like some numbers. But what if you make it interactive? You can make math interactive and you can make coding interactive. So that's an interesting robot that you can program it. It can learn like that. It's an example of how you can education with such robots.
That's actually quite. That's actually pretty cool. It's like before you even pick up a computer coding language, somebody who doesn't code, for you to understand the fundamental of what coding is, that procedural thinking. I think this is a good tool. I mean, if you make it fun and you make it a thing of play, hopefully the kids who pick up any coding language that they want. So
To get the logic behind that, like if
the
this
logic.
happens,
Yeah, the way of breaking down things into logic and it's pretty cool. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not the way we were taught coding in school. So
Nope.
we even have like a robot chemist, I think, that can replace the experiments that the usually chemist is doing, mixing all kinds of substances, and it's very interesting because I think it's a time-consuming job as far as I've read about this to be a chemist and do those kinds of jobs.
that looks like an expensive robot, though.
We don't have to think in terms of expensive. Does it look efficient?
I guess, but it does look like a really pricey robot. So, I mean, look at how nicely it's made. It's pretty cool. I think this is a very important step. This is also sort of like labor that you can free human beings from so they can do more of the thinking. Why not?
Yeah, wow. That's cool.
I have a news about
The Raspberry Pi 4 is
Did you
released.
read about it, Cody?
I didn't read about it, but I know about it. I know that's for $35 US. That's a
Oh
spicy
yeah,
little meatball.
I know nothing about computers. What do you mean? What is Raspberry Pi? Is that a pie? Is a real pie? Like,
Think of it as a very small computer that
Very
you can hold in
tasty.
your hand. It's,
so it has a tiny screen and a tiny keyboard.
okay, it would be the building block that you would plug all the things into to make said working computer at a very cheap price. But yeah, basically,
How cheap?
How cheap? 35. It's I think $35 US. It's like very for what you get for it, for what you could run. Like you could do streaming services, YouTube, fairly up to 4K displays, which is you can hold
Can
that
I
in your
use
hand.
Facebook on it?
I'm sorry.
Can I use Facebook on it?
Of course, you could use Facebook on it. You could
So
actually.
it's
Yeah.
the cheapest. So how much should an average person know about computers to get this up and running to use Facebook? Like I go to the store, I buy a Raspberry Pi for $35, right? What do I have to do to get Facebook running on this thing?
Well, you'd boot up that USB stick with a TROM-Jaro, I hope, and then you could do just the
No, it
live.
doesn't work. Raspberry Pi. It's ARM. This is another kind of processor.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so you'd boot up the compatible OS of choice. Hopefully, it's a
Linux.
trade-free one. And yeah, basically, yeah, you could run just a live Linux install that was compatible with.
You also need a mouse. If you need a mouse, a keyboard, and a screen.
Yeah.
But the idea here is that it's a very, very tiny computer without a screen, a keyboard, and that's basically it. But if you buy those, you can have a very cheap computer, and this is interesting because it makes things cheaper for people to. For example, for kids that from poor countries, they can have a computer in that sense. And I think they make it like that without. You may say like, what the fuck? They sell without a monitor. What the fuck should I do with that? Yeah, but it's a cheap way in society to just sell that motherboard, that basically the circuits. It's like a phone without a case, but you can make a computer out of it, which is a very nice.
I think what would be really cool is if this thing came out with like a simplish version explaining what you can do. Like you get this really nice, instead of saying Raspberry Pi for tech specs, instead say plug-in monitor keyboard here, right?
But here's the thing, they don't do this mainly for people who don't know much. Schools, for example, they buy such things. Schools or other organizations, and they do that. They package,
to teach kids how to put a computer together.
Yeah, or they package them and they resell them as more of a computer. These Raspberry Pi companies, as far as I understand, they deal with the hardcore hardware things. To provide hardware. Yeah, it's for people like you and me and other people who know, and they can take that and make it easier for other people to have a computer. But it's very interesting.
I mean, the first time you say the word computer to someone who doesn't, to a lay person, they're expecting, like saying, a screen, a keyboard, and some sort of cabinet or something.
Yeah.
They don't expect a circuit board. They don't associate that idea of a computer with a circuit board. So this is cool. This is cool. We'll see if we can do some trade-free packaging or post for them. Yeah. I don't know. That time. It seems super cool.
Yeah, that's really cool.
You heard of the Pi board?
What's that?
The Pi board. It's a microcontroller that runs Python 3, so it's kind of easy to get into programming microcontrollers, like plug sensors and motors. That could be, and it's kind of cheap as well, so that could be an entry point for kids, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
It comes with a Raspberry Pi Zero, PS2 keyboard, touchpad, USB hub, PSP. Oh, okay. It's the same thing, kind of similar thing.
Yeah, you can get a whole kit. Self-driving cars, a surveillance tool. Dun dun dun.
Yeah, people are starting to understand this concept more and more. Like self-driving cars, okay, are going to be and it's an interesting concept here. It's like another way to make money out of self-driving cars, and it's very interesting because why didn't I think about that? It's like there will be self-driving cars who will sell you privacy. They will be like, okay, all of these fucking cars that take your data. Our car doesn't, but you pay a premium. This is like what Apple does. Apple said our products are expensive, but we don't collect data, so you feel safe. So in a way, people now are going to try to sell privacy to self-driving cars, and this is going to happen.
It's like polluting the water and selling like bottled water.
Bottled oxygen. canned oxygen. There's a thing called an oxygen bar where people go to breathe. I was grow a plant.
Yeah.
Yes,
You know, it's thinking about it, it's crazy that people say, well, we shouldn't trust, like if we had no government, central government, or if it was contribution based, we can't trust people, but we trust the companies, right? And we trust companies now and people in those companies. Companies are comprised of people, so we trust our information with them. I mean, you could say, well, we don't have free will, we're not really trusting them, we don't know what's going on, but many people, they think their products are so fine, you know. Oh yeah, this is so healthy, this hamburger I'm eating. Oh, I mean, if it was bad, they would have been selling it, right? And so we get into this mass of these terrible products.
and they will trust self-driving cars with such things as well. Like they trust mobile phones. Like people today are very used to advertising on their phones or data collection. They will be very much fine in the future with self-driving cars collecting data, and they will be the same shit with the phones. So.
Yeah.
I mean, I heard this rumor that this thing called a Fitbit or something, the fitness tracker thing that people are wearing, something I will never wear. People were saying that that thing collects data on your health and gives it to insurance companies so that they can decide what kind of package you get.
Yeah.
Pretty sure that's a bloody rumor, but then it seems
No.
plausible.
It's not quite a rumor as far as I've read. I'm not sure if it's Fitbit or not, but there are apps that are doing. Yeah, that's what I do. And if I'm a health insurance company, I will provide those for free for my insured people. I'll be like, "Could you just take it?"
And the crazy,
I think it's because of the emergence of a new market that was not there before this market for data. And self-driving cars can tell you where you're going, how long you're stopping there for. So, yikes.
more convenience.
Or inconvenience.
That's the problem. Most people think it's convenient.
Yeah.
Imagine getting caught, if you're cheating people getting caught, and poor pot dealers getting caught. It's a sad thing.
Next news.
Oh no.
The millennials are growing horns.
I'm not on social networks. Don't fucking follow anything like that.
Yeah.
But this is of course from PBS, so it's confirmed Creative News, so it's a scientific article. But if any of you did you see this news? Anyone?
I
Yes,
saw it on
I have reported spam on this thing on Facebook, on Instagram. I blocked people on WhatsApp for sending me shit like this.
So explain to people what is this?
Apparently, the way we're using technology is causing the bone structure to change in people, and now millennials are growing horns. For us to get this kind of skeleton, the Homo sapiens sapiens skeleton, took a fucking long time to get there. And now, because of cell phone, this technology, we're growing horns. And I don't know, they have this weird, this is usually accompanied by a weird X-ray photo of the back of the skull.
Yeah.
And it's very suggestive. It's kind of like a cell phone stand. It was like a bit of bone that sticks out like that, and it gets your mind thinking. I saw that image and I knew it was clickbait, and I reported spam. Bullshit.
The problem is that even like BBC reported this as true, Washington Post reported this as true, Live Science reported this as true, and it was actually a scientific research but done by chiropractors. And basically, the PBS article that we link here is very well done. It's like asking experts to comment on this, and of course, it's an exaggeration from so many parts. They don't even have the X-ray that they didn't publish that. And one interesting thing, one researcher there, this was very funny. Guess what? One researcher there who studied this, he's selling some therapeutic pillows.
Oh, damn, that was quick.
For better postures, he has a company.
And
I've got this bump on my head. I've had it for as long as I can remember. I've got this exact same bump. I feel it all the time. It's not because of cell phones or
Me too. I
anything.
have one here.
Yeah, I think everyone's got it. I think that's where when the aliens made us, that's where they used to plug the USB
Yeah,
in.
I remember. I got some.
The Matrix.
Or people are having headaches and they feel the horns growing out of them.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Oh god,
And even
that
the
is that is
idea
just
the
that is just
one.
pain trying to escape your skull because it cannot take your own stupidity.
Even the horns, they only use like one or two times the researchers they use the word horns, but of course clickbait news took that, put a photo of apparently an X-ray of that shit, and then they run wild with it. And that's why I tell people, no, watch Trom News because it's a very interesting curated news. You will get
Yeah.
news like this, scientific news, not like bullshit. Like that's why I don't read news except from Trom News. Yeah, so it was interesting.
Oh,
Yes.
oh.
And the last one.
The 105 degrees in France. Why is
And
Europe
this
so?
motherfucker should put it like in Celsius, because then I can ask guy.
Yeah, I don't get.
Yeah.
What is it? It sounds super hot, like something is boiling.
Let's see.
Yeah.
40 degrees Celsius is
Yeah, I was
105.
like, what the fuck, 104 degrees in Madrid? We're fucked. Because in Spain, I was like, we're fucked. And then I was like, okay, Fahrenheit. Fuck you with Fahrenheit. Them, like, at least agree on that, humans. Like, only US and like two other tribes. They do this kind of thing. But anyways, the idea was that they say that because of they may maybe like the climate change, it's a heat wave, and there will be more and more like extreme degrees. As far as I understand, it's like the temperatures this year will be like between 2 and 4 or 2 and 3 degrees higher than usual. May not seem much, but it's a lot actually for humans to be that. And here's an interesting fact: in 2003, there was a big heat wave in France, and around 13,000 people died. And you might
Oh
ask,
shit.
like what the fuck, really? Like in 2003, are we primitive? But here's the reason. That's interesting because the people don't have access in Europe, at least. Air conditioning is not quite a thing in many countries. It's like an optional thing, and they didn't have that in old people because of overheating because their health issues. Usually, people who had problems are going to be affected by such things. So it was a technical problem, okay? It's stupid because it's something that you could solve that easily. 13,000 people in East France. We don't talk about who knows what country that doesn't have the resources. Why aren't people like when they make homes? You should make homes with air conditioning as well. All amenities. Why do you put running water, but you don't put an AC? Because you see, it can be deadly. Honestly, it can be deadly. So yeah, that's an interesting thing. Even in Sweden, in that year, I think they had like a crisis of fans. So people bought so many fans because it was so hot that they didn't have fans anymore, and it became like a thing there. Because but it's stupid, because it's such an old technology, basically, the AC, that most people they don't have access to it, and they may die because of a heat wave. Because okay, heat wave is bad because it's a consequence of climate change, probably. So this is bad. However, it's not something that people should die of in our society. It's something that we can easily mitigate, easily solve with an AC, or just people don't have to go to work every fucking day, like in that fucking traffic and so forth, walk their asses off.
But I guess it's a little difficult to predict when these things will happen, and if you don't have like you're saying, if you don't have the ACs or something technological in place for it, there's a chance of 30 million people in France dying of a heat wave. That is freaky because
I think it was in Europe, 30,000. I think it was in Europe.
in all of Europe.
Only in France? Wasn't it only in France?
Yeah. Well, in France there's 13,000. I see.
70,000 in Europe? Or?
That is unimaginable because I live in a subtropical climate and everyone here assumes Europe is cold.
Yeah, I see 30,000. Yeah, and caused 13 billion damages for Europe.
Wow.
In Europe, is 13,000 or in France?
In France was the like 13,000, and then in Europe was 30,000.
30? What the Wow.
Yeah, up to 70,000 in 2003 in Europe. It's very underrated, actually, the effects of heat, because if it comes unexpected, the elderly and such people can easily pass out and dehydrate, and if yeah, it's
See, an AC is not going to solve that problem of dehydration because ACs tend to take away humidity from the air. One thing that we can say about this is that the effect ACs and everything else, new technologies have had on, and people studied this. I can't cite the research right now, but there is a concept called thermal comfort, and it varies from region to different climatic zones. Right? So where I live, the thermal comfort used to be 26 degrees. We get humidity, relative humidity in the higher 80%, and our average temperatures are somewhere around there, 26. In my city, I remember 5, 6 years ago, if it used to hit 24 degrees Celsius, people will be wearing sweaters.
Oh wow.
Okay. People will be put cotton in their ears and everything, 24 degrees Celsius.
Wow.
Because they're used to temperatures which are 26 is a pleasant day and 26 to 30 is good. People can endure 30, but now with ACs and everything, the thermal comfort has come down to the standard of 21, 22. And people are finding it hotter than it used to be. I'm a creature of the sun. I like it when it's hot, and the cold doesn't like me. The
I
other
like.
things
Mhm.
there are
I
other
like.
things that you can do. Every climate has a way that you can design buildings in a way that passively takes advantage of the climate. It's called passive design, right? So if you live in northern cold climates, you can build the southern face of your wall to hold a lot of heat that it gains during the day that eventually radiates back into the building at nighttime. So you don't have to pay for heat. Right? There are simple things like that. And the more we move towards passive design, the less reliance we will have on energy and technology. I think
I
that should be actively encouraged.
how someone put it here, this news about the fact that many people died because of lack of AC or lack of other cooling system. He said that it's the same what happened in Texas when it snowed, and many people died in car accidents and so forth because the roads are not prepared for that.
Yep.
It's a technological issue, but people in Texas are very ready for it because they have all kinds of systems in place. This is not a reason for us to get used to these extreme climate changes. But I'm saying it's a technological problem. Many problems are technological problems that can be solved, but because of that money, then yeah, that's it.
We're already facing a water crisis in my city. We don't know when they're going to start enforcing limitations and other things. So it's really an uncertain thing. We have never thought about it. I'm actually thinking of moving to Canada because no, it's a serious thing. I mean, people are already starting to fight over water, and I heard that in some villages up north in Bihar there or UP, they're already fighting about it. And when people fight here, it gets really, really bad, like anywhere else in the world. So don't know.
Yeah, climate change is going to also push a lot of problems in society, but this is another subject. That is a massive subject. We can discuss climate change, for example, and migration because of that.
yeah.
Anyone wants to add anything for this or for the subject itself?
Volunteering's
No.
awesome when it's empowered and not punished. I can only think of like that old guy who was like handing out like soup to the homeless or whatever, the pastor, and they arrested him and like fined him for feeding the homeless or whatever. So if we empowered those people and took care of those people as opposed to actively using resources to stop the good thing from happening, then we'd have a better head start here on this volunteering aspect and maybe a better view on if we could achieve that on a global scale.
I agree.
I think I would not even call myself a volunteer. I say that, or even an activist. I always say that I feel like this is normal. So I feel like this is normal, and it's abnormal to force people to trade for whatever they do. And if we are going to create a society where people have the time to volunteer, then that's a society that I will want to live.
Agree.
Yeah. But thinking about, you know, as we move towards more potentially more problems, do you think we would get less compassionate and help less, or help more as we get more, you know, natural disasters if it happens, and things get more complicated? Because often we hear, okay, society has to collapse so people start looking around for solutions, but doesn't that make it worse? Does it make better?
If you look
What
at
do
the
you think?
documentary called, it's about, it's on video on it. It's World War II in color. It's a very like brutal documentary, and it's like has 13 parts. You should see how Europe was fucking destroyed. That could be called as a mega natural disaster. I don't think it united people. I don't think it's people don't have the tools to build something like a new kind of society. I don't think that is going to unite them. It's going to hurt them. Maybe they'll unite for a while. You know, for example, I know that in England they said that it was a problem because people living there, because of the war, they were stealing shit. You know, because like stores got bombarded and they were stealing shit from there, from their own country. No, you are not a patriot, but fuck off. No, that's the environment we live in. So I think for a short amount of time they will unite people, but we need a different kind of mentality, a different kind of structure of our society to unite us. I don't know, disasters themselves can unite us.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's a lot of talk about how like a big apocalypse of some sorts could maybe unite us and stuff like that, but we are kind of already living within like terrible times in some
Slow
way.
motion apocalypse.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And you know, I mean, you would definitely, I think, see a lot of collaboration if an asteroid was to hit our planet or something like that. Then a bunch of scientists and nations will definitely work together. And also with natural disasters hitting multiple countries, or like a super volcano or something like that, maybe. But yeah,
I think it's just creative impotence. I think it's a bullshit idea. I know it's super easy to just wipe the slate clean and imagine something new.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what we need. It's easy. Anybody can do it. Take what you have right now and then work on the transition. Imagine more things like that. I mean, it's easy. We've done this apocalypse scenario, and we do this every year. There is a blockbuster movie every year that comes out with this everything to shit theme. It's just create impotence. I mean, get your shit together, man. If you cannot imagine a new story, don't like keep seeing us the same way. I'm not buying it.
Okay. Okay then. If anyone wants to add anything to that, no.
Yeah, I maybe could add like if anyone watches and like I can just encourage to volunteer for, because for example at home I have a lot of social pressure to like go to study or have a job and earn some money, but no, I want to volunteer. I want to help more important projects. So I just can encourage that, and yeah.
You can help with Chrome by go to like TROM-Cast.com, help if you want. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
you can talk stuff and so forth. It's great for all of us. Okay then. If no one wants to add anything, then thank you for volunteering your time. And
You'll be saving that, right? For last time.
I didn't get that.
Were you saving that joke for the end?
oh yeah.
1 hour.
Just sitting on it, incubating.
That is some
Jam is strong.
impressive, yeah, that's some impressive impulse control, man.
It's good.
Okay then next month, next week, same name, same time.
Mhm.
Whoever wants to participate,
Yeah.
volunteer your time and participate. Okay then.
All right.
All right.
That's it
Yeah.
for
Auf
us.
Nice talk.
Wiedersehen.
See you guys.
Bye.
See ya.
Take care.
Ciao.